Hello, my Xbox and Me fan. Thank you very much for clicking this video. I really do appreciate it. Before the video starts, I just wanted to quickly say, for some reason on the audio, I had very much trouble syncing it up. Shout out to Press, who's tried to help me to the best of his ability. There is still a tiny bit of echo in some moments of when the conversation has happened. I really felt that Tell Me Why and the conversation that we had during this spoiler cast was super important. I learned so much, so much when recording this, that I felt like even with the quality not being to where I would want it, to the standard I would want it, it still needed to be out there in the world. So it won't be going up on the My Xbox and Me podcast feed anymore. It's going to be a video only. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you watch it. I hope you can get through that tiny bit of a problem. And please give me your feedback. I feel like it's a great conversation, and you'd be doing yourself a disservice if you didn't check it out. Thank you for taking your time and clicking this video. Hello, and welcome to My Xbox and Me episode, crash, I actually don't remember. Like, I can't even... 258. I am one of your hosts, MC Fixer. Look to my show notes, no one judge me. I am one of your hosts, MC Fixer, alongside Too Fresh Crash. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing fine. Did you have to say it like that?
You didn't like my dance this week? Too Fresh Crash.
I already don't like the name. The fact that you added a dance to it now, just, you know, makes it a little bit worse.
What do you mean? Look, you're just so grouchy. So grouchy lately.
It's 7 o'clock in the morning for me. It's not even 7, it's 6 something.
Whose fault is that they stayed up playing Avengers?
Your fault.
My fault or your fault? I'm the one that caught you streaming this morning. I'm the one that caught you. I'm like, what are you doing?
You know? Okay, let me explain why it's your fault. Because you always tell me to stream. You say, Crush, you gotta stream. And there I was streaming for you, Fix. No other reason.
He doesn't tell you what time you have to stream.
Facts.
No, when Fix tells me to stream, he's talking about UK time.
Literally,
time.
Of course, my whole body clock.
Yeah,
and of course,
exactly.
Our wonderful guest this week hasn't been on this show for many years.
It's been a while. I've moved house twice since I was last on here, so it's been a while.
Laura Kate Dow. Do you still use the Dow? Because I see it on Facebook not, so I'm like...
I use the Dow, yeah.
Okay, cool. Making sure I'm not in the trouble here. I'm like, oh gosh.
That's all good.
How are you? How are things?
I'm good. I'm busy. I am in... we'll get to it in a little bit. I'm deep in that Avengers rabbit hole. It has been a busy old week.
Yep. For people who don't know who you are or what you do, just give people a little roundup. I'm sure most of the audience does, but if they don't, who are you?
I'm Laura. I do video game coverage wherever will pay me to do video game stuff. I have written for IGN, Polygon, Vice, Kotaku, a lot of the places that do game coverage. I've done stuff for them. I have a podcast called Podquisition where we talk about video games, and it usually goes off on a lot of tangents. And I have a YouTube channel where I do a series called Accessibility every Friday, where I talk about the video game industry, accessibility and representation, basically just helping more people to play games and see themselves in games. I do a bunch of other stuff as well, but that's the big stuff.
The most important thing is you're my mentor. That's the most important thing, yeah? Don't you forgot that part, yeah? Like, remember, anybody who helps me out in this industry from day one, there she is. She is the one. There you go. There you go. Literally, I will never forget the moment I met you. I will never be able to be thankful enough for what you've done for me, filling me with confidence in every time something happens. You're the first person I get on Facebook Messenger and message like, this is happening, oh my god, what do I do?
You've been doing awesome stuff for years, and it's been really awesome to get to see you have loads of really cool opportunities recently, so hooray.
Thank you. If you don't know what My Xbox and Me is our weekly Xbox podcast here on youtube.com/myxboxandme, and you can get it on all podcast services except for SoundCloud. Screw you, SoundCloud, because I ain't paying you £8. I've decided again, Chris. You know what I said last week? I might pay it. I flipped on it again. This is my new thing. I flipped on it. I ain't paying it.
I'm pretty sure you said you might pay it like 5 weeks ago, so I assumed you were already on that mind state.
Felt like last week on me, mate. Felt like last week for me. Don't forget, if you want to win a pair of headphones, some A40s, go and rate us on iTunes. We are on the race to 100 ratings on iTunes, because iTunes is silly, and that's how you get your podcasts further up the charts, and Yeah, it's a pain in the bum, but we've got to do it. So please, please, please do go and rate us. Do subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like I said, the video comes out every Friday. And yeah, our Patreon producer this month is Aaron God. Thank you, Aaron God, for the support, keeping the lights on, literally, because I just paid the electric bill. So shout out to you. Shout out to you. Topic of the show this week, and the reason we're all here together, and I feel like it's important that we have got an Xbox exclusive game that we've been talking about for a little bit, Chris, that these games keep coming out, but they're not actually games that kind of are in our wheelhouse of what we want to play. Battletoads, I know you're lukewarm on, whatever. Same for Wastelands 3, which we're going to have actually Norza on. He's playing it and making content around it. So he's going to come on and talk about that either on another episode this week or next week. But yeah, we are going to talk about Tell Me Why Episode 1. Obviously, it's an important... I feel like it's a really important game in general. Number one, for what it is doing to include people that are very much underrepresented in the games industry in general, and just in general in the world. The mediums out there are just not doing a good job of representing the people they should be, right? So tell me why. I want to just go through the plot of it first, just so for people who don't know what it actually is, and then we'll sort of give initial thoughts and go from there. The game is centered around two twins, Alison and Tyler Ronan, who have travelled to their childhood home in Alaska and must come to terms with the events of their childhood, particularly for Tyler, as he has transitioned to Mal since then. The story involves how their childhood situation influenced Tyler's development and effects on their mother. In the game, the player will revisit parts of the old home with both twins and experience separate visions of memories of what happened. Transpired, thank you. Lyra, just cut in here. Any words I get wrong, you just slap me over the head, make it happen, alright? With each twin having different recollections of what happened. I'm going to leave it there for now, because I feel like we're going to do a great job of sort of explaining a lot of what goes on in this, because that is kind of what the whole game is. So you've got initial thoughts, initial of what the actual game is. From a base level, we'll start with you, Crash. What were your overall thoughts on the game, of just like mechanically, graphically, environment, stuff like that, before we actually dive in deep in the meat of the story and stuff? What did you think of it?
I think the game, first of all, controlled really well. I feel like with a lot of these type of games, they feel a little bit on the clunkier side, and even animation-wise, they look not necessarily wonky, but they don't look right. Something feels off. I felt like in this game, a lot of that just felt smooth. It played smooth. You moved smooth. There wasn't really any weird animations, maybe an odd one here or there, but I don't really remember any that stand out.
Yeah.
I think art-wise, I think the art direction they went with this game was really good. That's another thing that might be my bias with like Telltale games. I feel like Telltale games have had one animation style, and I don't think it's aged particularly well, especially if you're not super into it. I feel like this art style, it looks gorgeous. Like, you see the scenery, the mountains in the background and all that. When you're on the boat, it's a gorgeous view. I think this art style in general will also age really well. And then, yeah, I just think it knocked it out of the park with a lot of the stuff it did.
Laura, onto you, just a base level.
As a person who's always really enjoyed Dontnod's games, I think this is easily the most technically impressive thing they've done. Both from a visual standpoint, again, making it feel a lot less clunky than stuff like, say, Life is Strange that they've had in the past. But I think the biggest step forward it's had is the writing quality. As much as I love Life is Strange and Life is Strange 2, both of them felt a bit wonky at times. They're both games that try and write about young adults or teenagers, and they throw in a bit too much like we're trying to sound young lingo. There's something that feels like adults in a boardroom trying to write kids.
Yeah.
Tell Me Why is definitely the first of their games where I've gone, oh, this dialogue just felt like it really clicked, which is really nice. I like a lot of the stuff they've done with trying to integrate that storybook they've got into puzzle solutions. I really enjoy just the world they've built. I think they've done a really good job of, with a very small space, creating a really interesting environment to explore.
Yeah, I totally agree with both of you, honestly. From the visual standpoint, I definitely caught myself at certain moments. There's options of when you're on the boat, right? You can sort of just lean on the edge and just sort of wait as you try it coming up. And I did that. I just sort of stood there, looked around a little bit, was like, oh, wow, this is really good looking. And I don't know whether that was the case of the Xbox funding, or whether it's that case of like only having to develop for one console. So obviously and PC, where I played the game actually. On PC it looked ridiculous. Like generally I had settings on Ultra, I was running unlimited frames just so people are very aware of where I played. It looked ridiculously good. And I totally agree with you on the dialogue. It felt like real human beings. It felt like real people, and that made it so much easier to connect with them instantly. I instantly either liked you, hated you, or indifferent. Instantly. Like I am with real human beings. Mostly on the hate side usually. But for me it was... Go on, sorry.
Oh, yeah, you were saying about not being sure if it was the Microsoft money on that. I really get the impression that's what happened on a lot of it. It really feels like Microsoft stepped in and went, hey, we like what you're doing, let's just give you the time and money to do it right.
Yeah, literally, and it's what happens when you can just develop. We see it with Sony all the time, right? Develop for one console or one platform and go from there. I feel like with Xbox it's very much develop for PC and we'll scale it down to the original Xbox, which has seemed to have worked thus far, especially with this game anyway. Obviously, talking about its characters, the twins, they're so important to this story. We're centered around this story, and it's two characters that going in I wasn't sure what to expect of. Were we going to get two different stories, or were we going to get we've met? I knew it was going to be a case of we've met up for the first time. Just from the trailers you can sort of get that little bit of that vibe, but I was really taken back by it. It's a story of two people who don't know each other anymore, really, and you're now getting to know who they are and what they're about and what they like and what they dislike, and they're both learning about each other. The transition that Tyler has gone through, and like how does somebody know how to deal with that? Obviously that's not something I've ever had to go through, but to see that experience, it was amazing for me. It really was. It's something, especially as a black person, you definitely want, or mixed race person I should say, sorry, you want to be representation there, right? You want to be able to go, oh, I see where this and where this fits in with my life. Even if it doesn't look like me, I can get that, right? This, to me, again, I can only talk from my outside bubble on this one, but for me, feels like it does a really, really great job of telling a story. And it's not that it gets everything right, I don't think, but I think that's kind of the point as well, where it's like, we're not all going to get this right first time. It's a learning experience as we go on.
Yeah, one of the things I really liked, and you sort of touched on it a little bit there, is this whole... these two siblings getting to know each other, and obviously part of that is the two of them have been apart for a decade, as is a big part of that first episode narrative, but like as a trans person, I know I had an experience of having to get to know my siblings over from scratch after I came out, without having a multi-year gap of having not seen them, because it's a big life experience, and it involves a lot of self-discovery. It involves a lot of like, okay, who am I now? Where are we at? And it was really nice seeing Alison as a character be so open to, okay, I'm going to go in with no preconceptions. You present who you are, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
And that was really nice to see, that she was just very open to, I want to get to know whoever you are today.
Sorry, Chris, go on.
I was just going to say, in general, I feel like they had a lot of different reactions to Tyler. You have the guy on the boat, I don't remember his name, who just sort of just like freezes, who just sort of freezes at that point. And then you have the guy in the house.
Wait, freezes at what point?
He just stops talking afterwards.
After what, though? Because I think we've got different experiences already here.
Because of different answers.
Because of different answers.
I never told him that Tyler was trans, because I saw a bunch of bumper stickers on his car that were very, like, pro-gun, anti-human rights, and I was like, I'm not fucking trusting him with that info. That does not seem safe.
That's why I wanted to interject.
When you get the answer, when you get to give the answer of, like, I'm Tyler, and you can say Tyler Ronan, I said Tyler Ronan, and he's like, I didn't know that the Ronins had a brother. I thought it was just two sisters. And he's like, we never did have another brother, right?
Yeah.
And then he just sort of like freezes, and he's like, oh. And then Tyler's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, we'll leave that there, sort of like this, and we'll move on from it.
Interesting. That's okay. See, I didn't have that. I wasn't telling this guy that clearly. For me, it was kind of twofold. Yeah, for me, it was like, I'm not telling you who I am. I don't know who you are. I don't care about your opinion. Honestly, I don't care what you have to say. I know, and obviously from the way they were depicting this guy very much like,
Yeah.
you're not going to understand this, and you're not even going to be open to trying to understand this.
Well,
You're gonna
also,
be rude.
I didn't want him having the preconception of, oh, you're the murderer.
That was
You're
kind
the
of
one
went
who
through my
murdered
head as well.
Yeah.
that local person from town.
So as the conversation's going on, that's like what I wanted to do. But then once I got to the point of answering that, I was like, answer Tyler or Tyler Ronan. I'm like, this person's Tyler Ronan. It's not just Tyler, right?
God,
It is who
that
they
is
are.
fair.
And I was like, you know what? We're just gonna give him the answer. Like that's the most honest truth, and he'll react how he reacted. And
Yeah.
he just kind of like froze. He was like, oh, you know. And I thought that was really interesting.
Ah,
Yeah.
And then
okay.
even later on,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to talk about Sam later on that you talked to in the
Yeah.
house.
Yeah.
And he's sort of like, he's saying the wrong words, he's doing all of this, and it seems like he's kind of trying, but he's also drunk clearly, and all
Yeah.
this. And I'm
Yeah.
like, they have a lot of different responses to it, which I think it's
Yeah.
good. It's not just sort of like all negative, or it's not all positive.
One thing that they absolutely nail about meeting people who you haven't seen in a long time and being like, that person you remember, that's me,
Yeah.
is that every different response that this game had was some variation of it's the brain stuttering, it's I don't hi.
Yeah.
That there is a very specific kind of awkward reaction that this game really captures. Some of those experiences I think are better than others, and we'll maybe get into those in a bit more depth in a bit.
Yeah.
But like, I think it really well captured the, I suddenly have to put you in a new box in my brain, and that's uncomfortable.
And I think that was the point of, especially some of the. We can go into it now, like, because we're all over
Yeah.
the place, and generally that's kind of where I want to be with this game,
Yeah.
because it is kind of all over the place, not in terms of its quality, but in terms of what we did and how you do things. It's in such different orders. Again, I didn't give a spoiler warning at the front. I'm spoiling the shit out of this. Go play it if you haven't watched this.
Cool.
Like, whatever. We're saying everything. Get to it. Like, the stuff with Tyler being, obviously he murdered his mum at a young age, and having to spend time away for
Wow.
he was away for 7 years and then stayed
Yeah.
away for an additional 3 years. I really felt that relationship, and yeah, we'll get to the big ending right at the end.
Yeah.
But we'll leave that for the end, all right? That's the deal. All of us, we leave that for the end. But like to learn about this character, and I have that preconception of, you're right, it was very much, I'm the murderer kid in this town, so I need to remember when I'm speaking to people, that is how people are going to be looking at me, even beyond my transition. Like, they're going to look at me as the kid that murdered my mum. So that was something that clearly Tyler is carrying with him all the way through this first episode, and him and his sister are juggling through it until obviously we get to the end and we find out why. But yeah.
Yeah, it's. I wanted to talk in a little bit more depth about one of those encounters we were talking about there. Sam, the drunk person who pulls a gun on Tyler because he thinks he's a home intruder, then has his slightly drunken, not very good response to Tyler being trans, and I really like the way that scene plays out ultimately if you get Tyler to stand up for himself and go, look, this is who I am, I'm just as much of a man as you, fucking get that in your head.
Got ya.
That being said, as a trans person, it felt really fucking uncomfortable playing through that scene, because in my head, all I had going through my head the whole time was, he's transphobic, he has a loaded gun right next to him, and he's drunk.
Yeah.
And while in a video game, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to assert Tyler's identity. Like, in reality, I would never have done that, because that is exactly the kind of person where I would go, if I try and make a stand about my identity, you might just decide to shoot me.
Yeah.
And, like, that's a real fucking intense scene to go through if you're like, oh yeah, there are some people who you do not feel safe to say in that stuff to.
Yeah, no, I totally get where you're coming from with that. I didn't get the same responses as you guys. It was very much, mine felt more like, this guy's a douchebag, I'm not even going to react.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to interact with you like that. Like, Sam goes and, Tyler goes and sits down in my version, and he's just like, yeah, whatever. I'm sort of like, and I'm literally the whole time, I'm like, let's go, I want to leave, let's go, sort of thing. I don't want to have this interaction with this person who, again, clearly doesn't understand. And I don't think, maybe I'm wrong, or maybe I didn't get it right in the way I'm just taking it from my approach. I didn't think I felt like he tried to make an effort, but not enough in my head.
Yeah, Sam as a character is one of those people who's clearly like, not necessarily even malicious, but he's clearly just has no baseline awareness of what trans people are, and 100%. He's stumbling into pitfalls. Yeah. And the line of trying to read, is this someone who is just not aware, or is this someone who might be a danger to me and I need to be aware of? Like, it's a really hard line to read where that lies sometimes. And like the way it plays out is if you do stand up to him, he does end up respecting you more as a result. He goes like, oh, okay, you were stern and direct with me, and I will shut up and listen to you.
Like men, then, literally.
Honestly, yeah, a lot of it does boil down to, oh, you stood up and were assertive. That's a man thing to do. Therefore, I will see you as more of a man.
Which
now.
Is stupid, but
but
to give credit to the game, that is how a lot of men. I'm not saying that's how men should think, but that is how a lot of men.
That's the kind of shit that would get through to people. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it is what it is.
You've got to give the game a little bit of credit there in terms of
it's. Yeah.
It does kind of now the way I'm gonna call Sam stupid in this regard. A stupid person would act. If I come, it's the same thing with, at least in my experience with racist people. Like when someone's racist and you go, "Hey, you're being racist," and they're like, "Wait a minute, what? I'm being racist?" And they're like, "Yeah, this is why you're being racist," and blah 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 blah. They nine times out of 10 in my experience, they go, "Sorry," not even sorry. Usually, actually, it's usually, "Well, I'm not racist, but this is how I feel." At least in this scenario, it sounds like there was at least a little bit of respect there.
Oh yeah, no, it definitely played out more as like, oh, okay, yeah, I will shut up. I was mainly saying stupid shit, assuming that you weren't gonna call me out on my bullshit.
Yeah. To talk about another relationship with Tyler, obviously Tyler and his sister have this really interesting moment on the boat with the ring. I feel like that was a super important moment for this game, where it was, how are you going to play it as the player with your options, number one, but number two is I did the decision of, I'm not taking that ring, I'm not ready yet. That's sort of how I came at it from Tyler's point of view, which is, this person's done me wrong, I have not seen this person in 10 years, and I am not ready for that yet. Not that I won't get there, but I'm not there right this moment.
I can totally understand that perspective. I took the ring less because of like the stepdad and what he represented. I took it more as like, look, I'm coming back to a place where everyone's going to kind of hate me already. They're going to hate me for the fact that they think I killed my mum. They're going to probably have some issues with me coming back being trans. I don't want to add this as another point of friction between me, my sister, and the people who are important to her.
Gaia.
I will attempt to do something nice, because I want to have at least one bit of this that doesn't lead to fighting.
Gaia.
Yeah, I took the ring as well. I took it because I wanted a better relationship with the sister. It was like, oh, I'm doing this for you. I'm not doing it for Eddie. I'm not doing it for any other reason. Nothing. Not even because the value that this ring holds to them, right? It's just for you.
I really regretted it. Sorry, I really regretted it after the fact, once I found out what the ring actually meant. Because as you go in deeper, you find out what the ring means. And she's like, oh, it's in my pocket. And I'm like, oh, man, I kind of want the ring now, because I know it means a lot to you. I wish you would have... When it was presented to me, it was like, Uncle Eddie is giving me this for you. Until you really understand what that ring actually means.
Well, I trusted her up front when she was like, look, it has a lot of significant meaning, because obviously he's Tlingit Inuit, and I was like, I don't know exactly what that meaning is, but I will trust that, like, I do not want to be disrespectful to someone's personal or religious beliefs or spiritual beliefs. So I took her on her word at that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I even think even with the intro where like they're both prepping, I think the game does a really good job of showing the sister like anxious to see the brother and sort of eager. So for me, it was like when she says this, it's not sort of like some game, some manipulation tactic or anything like that. It is genuinely out of like sort of like, I'm trying to mend bridges here. I'm trying to like you know, get all parts of my life to like.
And I feel bad for her. I feel bad for her situation. She's really stuck between two, you know, a rock and a hard place a little bit.
Well, it's between the person you feel like has left you, and especially the 3 years, and that's what I was just about to bring up. Those extra 3 years are so important. The fact that at 18, he could have went off and done his own thing, but decided to stay and it seems like to become a counsellor, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
And sort of mentor the children, the kids that are there. It was like, and why was there no contact? Once I heard Tyler's reasoning, I really was like, well, that makes sense to me. It's like, I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready yet. And it wasn't you. It's that whole saying. It's not you, it's me. And it very much came through in that scene when they're having that conversation. It was like, it's not about you, it's about me. And I need you just to understand that from my perspective.
Yeah.
So, and going back to the beginning scene, Chris, you had made a great point. I thought that was a really strong start, where it was like both perspectives from both characters. You don't know who they are at that point, really, and it's like you get so much personality in both of their bedrooms to explain who they are, what they're about, and like just everything. Especially, I feel again, Tyler in my head is very central to this story, even more so in my opinion. But it was very much like, okay, I see the music and he likes music. I see the notes on the wall, so he's a likable person. And like I'm taking all of this and taking it into me of how I'm going to play this character.
Yeah. He's a really interesting character. I think they do a really good job in the opening sections of like him exploring his room and then being on the boat, of giving a good sense of what makes him interesting as a person, because like he's a person who's clearly put a lot of his time spending a decade away into trying to be self-inflective, trying to learn to be a better person. There's a book on his table in the start of the game that is about learning non-toxic forms of masculinity, and this is like I've spoken to a lot of trans men about the significance of that book, and it's a thing that like a lot of trans men, when they're transitioning, emulate traditional stereotypical masculinity because it's a framework for being perceived as male. And there's a lot of stuff that can come alongside that, and there's a lot of not always great aspects of the way people expect men to behave. And like that book is a really good example of he's aware of the pitfalls he might fall into and is working to try and sculpt the kind of person he should grow into be. You've got these lovely little contradictions in the way he acts that I find really interesting. Like he's really anti-hunting, but he loves fishing.
Yeah.
Like he's a character that is funny and he knows what he wants and he's caring, but he's got some depth to him. I find him such an interesting character.
But I feel like that's got to be testament to the writing, right? It's that level of detail that on the surface level you don't really get in many games. I feel like, and that's something we're playing Avengers, and I totally in that game I'm very much like I wish they would have went deeper with Kamala Khan, and really I like what was there, but it's not deep enough. Where like you get a game like this, and I understand they're two very different games, but you get games like this, and I'm like, there is so much depth there, and I picked up on the whole hunting, fishing thing as well. I was like, wait a minute, you're really against this, but you really like this. Like, what's the difference in your head?
That's what humans are like, though.
That's
Sometimes
exactly
we're
it.
kind of contradictory and we don't make sense on paper. And I always like seeing when someone writes a character that doesn't always make sense.
Flaws, right? It's just, or not even... But I do think there's flaws in the character, though, but like flaws for the right reasons as well. It doesn't ever feel like... with obviously this game being about the transition of a character, do you ever feel what were some moments, and you'd be able to pick up on it better than I, of like they did do wrong, that something they just got totally wrong? If anything,
honestly, in terms of how they present Tyler as a trans man, I largely think they and obviously I'm talking from a trans woman perspective, so that I've spoken to some trans men about stuff, but obviously this is just my perspective. I think largely they did a really good job. They did the by the numbers what you should be doing for trans representation. They probably got it better than pretty much any other video game that exists. They did. I'll rattle through some of the stuff they did and then kind of get to the stuff that they maybe didn't do so good. Every time they're talking about Tyler in the past tense before he transitioned, they simply refer to him as young Tyler. That is wonderful. There is no reason your narrative ever needs to tell you what a trans person's birth name was. It is so easily avoidable. You just don't bring the name up in scenes, or you refer to them as young who they are now. It is a really easy way to just not invalidate someone, because like if you never tell the player what someone's name was before they transitioned, shitbags can't go around using that name to try and invalidate them. It's super easy. They pretty much exclusively only ever use male pronouns for him. There's a couple of exceptions, but they are very specific. His sister refers to him as a sister during a scene where they're cutting his hair for the first time, and that's very specifically the flashback to him coming out. It's like, hey, I'd rather be your brother than your sister.
Yeah.
The mum does it once, but again, it's in a flashback before she's aware, and it's again the first time that Tyler really told her, hey, here's what's going on.
Yeah.
And, like, there's one example with Sam, the drunk, but you can shut him down real fucking quick.
Yeah.
They didn't use it unnecessarily for shock value. Every time Alison talks about Tyler in the past, she always uses he, him pronouns, even if talking about clearly before he was out. I think, like, on paper, they did everything great. The main issues I have are... Okay, the main issue I have is a pretty fundamental one, and I get what they were doing. The setup of this game is my mum tried to murder me because I'm trans,
Yeah.
and I had to murder her in self-defense.
Yes.
And that's a pretty heavy trauma narrative. Like, that is... Like, one trope that really comes up again and again and again and again when putting trans people in any form of media is they have to go through some really horrible traumatic experience, and it's often a really horrible traumatic childhood experience.
Got it.
And, like... I'm gonna spoilers here.
Yeah.
It's a red herring. Like, halfway through episode 1 we find out she was actually trying to be supportive. That's not what was going on. But for the first several hours of this game, you have to sit uncomfortably with this. This person ended up in juvie for a decade because they had to murder their parent in self-defense because their parent was trying to kill them for who they were.
Yeah.
That's real tropey. And I get that the developers probably thought, hey, it's okay because that's not actually what happened, but it's like, yeah, you still got a couple of hours of uncomfortably sitting with, oh, it's another one of these trans trauma stories.
So, my question to you would, do you not think it pays? I don't know, again, and I'm only talking from my own perspective always, but for me it was kind of interesting, and I understand what you're saying with the tropes, and again, it happens with black and mixed race people of colour in general. We always get put shoeboxed into certain roles and certain things that happen, so I can totally understand that. And maybe for me, it's because I've never seen this before. I've never seen it before firsthand in these tropes, that it doesn't come across tropey to me.
Yeah.
But obviously, someone who's seen more of it out there, it will be. So for me, and this is the first for me. Sorry to keep cutting you up.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
AAA game that really is diving into it. That's going to have a really widespread appeal. So maybe that's... I'm not saying it is excusable or anything like that, but maybe it was a case of, we're going to try and tell this story this way to really get people to understand these characters and see where we go for the next 2 episodes.
Yeah, I can see that perspective, and I guess I know that my perspective likely differs because I consume more media with trans characters in, because I'm constantly expected to have opinions on them. But like, I think that, like, the thing that helped me not mind this too much is about a month before Tell Me Why's first episode came out, I'll put a Q&A up on their website where they just spoilery were like, hey, look, we're going to answer all your questions about representation, like, one by one. Do you want to know about, like, the casting and the writing process? Do you want to know if this whole thing about the mum being transphobic, where that's going?
Yeah.
Do you want to know about what sort of endings Tyler could have in episode 3? And I read that, and that up front was like, look, this thing's a red herring. And for me, that helped a lot. Knowing it was a red herring made me able to go, okay, I'm interested in what the payoff to this is.
Yeah.
But, like, it is an incredibly common trope, and it annoys me that it's still so pervasive. Like, even if you just look at video games that came out this year that had trans characters that were published by big publishers, The Last of Us 2, Lev, the trans man character in that, his entire narrative was about escaping from religious cult trauma and attempting to kill him because of who he was. If you look at Deadly Premonition 2, which is a terrible, terrible example of trans representation, but, like, the trans woman character in that game went through huge amounts of trauma growing up. Like, there's a little bit of me that every time a game comes out with a trans character, I'm like, can you just give me one that hasn't gone through, like, the huge trauma backstory? Can we just have one who's, like,
Yeah, I got you. I totally get where you're coming from. Now that it's been described, been explained to me in that way. If something is always, especially because you're very much the same as me now with the whole Black Lives Matter movement, everyone expects me to know everything, and I'm like, I'm just a human being. I don't know everything. I will do my best to find out more for you and try and explain that, but I don't know everything. So, it's interesting. It's very interesting. I'm glad that you brought it up. I'm glad that now I'll now be looking for it more in the next game that comes out with a trans character in it, and be like, and I can now go, hey, can we finally get this or this? So
if you look before this but before this. And there's some iffy stuff because it's made by Swery, who did Deadly Premonition 2. But before this, like, a lot of people were pointing to The Missing as, like, the example of a higher budget, more known game that had a trans playable character. And even that was another one where it's like, oh, the starting event of this is a suicide attempt, and it's all fixated on a traumatic, like, conversion therapy and bullying, and just, it'd be nice to have a trans character at some point who that isn't where their story starts.
So, would you have liked to have seen the roles reverse, where it was the other way around with the twins? So the trauma was all on the other side. There's still trauma on both twins, to be honest with you. But would you have liked to have seen that, or?
It would have been nice for the trauma not to have necessarily been on Tyler, but I get the payoff. I get why it. Knowing where episode 1 ends up, I think that it was probably for the better for the story they were trying to tell. It allowed them to have like some of the twists they wanted to have. It justified Tyler's being away for X amount of time. It justifies the kind of person he is and the kind of responses he gets. And I know, they did it for a reason. It's less a complaint about this specific game, and it's more just, you're kind of playing around with tropes, and I know you're doing them as a red herring, but, like, they're still there. But, like, that's the thing. That's my biggest complaint about Tell Me Why in terms of trans representation, and if that's the biggest complaint I have, this game is a huge step forward, because, like, it really shows that they had multiple people from GLAAD who consulted on this. They, August Black, who is the trans man who voices Tyler, was given the ability to tweak lines and to add dialogue and to put some of himself into the character, which I think really helps.
I think it comes across, right? I was going to bring it up about the voice actor, and I totally agree. I feel like it very much embodies the character, and it feels, like we said, it feels like real human beings, very much so.
There's lots of little things about his performance and the way the character's written that just feel very human and very written from a trans perspective. There's a conversation you can have with Alison, I think, when they're looking at the diary over the lake. A conversation about, like, the fact that body odor changes when you start hormone replacement therapy. There was a trans man who pointed out to me that Tyler's calendar has him taking testosterone every Tuesday, which is apparently a really common thing for trans people, because it's like, it's Tea Tuesdays, it's got tea, and I remember that's the day of the week that I take the thing. Apparently that resonated for a lot of people. It's little details that, like, really cool. That's the kind of thing that someone who isn't trans wouldn't have thought to put in, and it's really nice set dressing.
Yeah, when I was playing and I saw that stuff, it didn't really ring a bell to me at all. Yeah. Which really shows that it's attention to detail that only a trans person would notice, that somebody like me or Fix wouldn't notice. Yeah. It completely goes by us. Yeah,
I think that's really cool to hear that, actually, and know that, again, it's that level of detail beyond the level of detail that even the eye can see. I see it from one lens and somebody else sees it from another, and that's what kind of makes this game really special from what we've played so far. Again, remember, this is just the first episode that we're talking about. We've got 2 more coming, and I generally cannot wait for them. To keep going, though, let's talk a little bit about Alison, because she's another character that's very much... She's there, she's going through her own struggles in life, she's very much... learning how to she's always accepted her brother, always, and she's now trying to make sure the world do not try and screw him over. I feel like, anyway, it's very much like, don't disrespect my brother. It's very much like how again, my sister is like a big gap between me, but like I'm very much like with my sister. I take her out, I've got her under my arm the whole time. I'm like, anyone look at her, she's 14 now and she's becoming older and thinks she's an adult. I'm like, anyone look at her, I'm gonna beat you up, sort of thing. I always get that sort of, not in like aggressively, but in like a very protective type of way, right? And I feel like that's how Alison is with Tyler, very much so. Every time you come up to a character, whether it be, what's the gentleman's name in the shop?
Tom?
Tom. Yeah, I believe it's Tom. That whole scene in the shop, it's like, oh, it's you, and it's like, yeah, it's him, and come on, sort of thing, like, get with it. I'm not about, you're my employee as well, like, don't mess this relationship up, type of situation. It very much comes across in those scenes where it's like, she's caring, she really does care about her brother, and she's always accepted him for who he is. And now we start seeing what else is out there.
Can I talk about, like, the thing right at the end of the episode? Because I think it's really important to, like, my perspective of Alison as a character. So, obviously, right at the end of the episode, we find out it wasn't actually Tyler who killed their mother. It was Alison who did it in self-defense. And I think that, in hindsight, paints a really interesting picture of how Alison acts through this whole first episode. Because, obviously, when they're first sorting around the house, Tyler is a lot more comfortable with being there and remembering the past and the way he thinks about everything, because obviously, like, he's had a decade to sit and process his role in everything, whereas Alison's basically spent a decade living a lie and pretending that she didn't, like, trying to, just not acknowledging the fact that she ultimately was the one to kill her mother, and, like, that plays really interestingly into why she's so uncomfortable and awkward and doesn't want to have any fucking thing to do with her past.
You've literally just unlocked something in my brain. I think Kresh might have got there as well, if I'm honest with you. Maybe we'll see. The moment that you start walking towards the dock, and she's like, no, she's pretty much like, no, we shouldn't go down there. Like, let's not go down there. Let's not go. And I was like, I was very much like, well, why wouldn't, obviously, clearly something had happened down there. But it didn't really, until you just said that, it didn't click with me, where it's like, oh, of course she didn't want to go down there. That's like the worst place to go. And you very much have, you like, again, it's one of those games that you could play again and just see it from a totally different perspective of like, she doesn't want to go in the bedroom. She doesn't want to walk around this house. But she wants to get in and out very quickly. She wants to sell the house quickly.
But on top of that, even, I think it explains a lot of why she's so protective over Tyler, because obviously Tyler took the fall. Tyler was like, fuck it, I'll go down for this, you'll be fine. And she's got a lot of built up, like, I owe you for this. You gave up a decade of your life so that I could be free. And as such, now she's got an opportunity, like, he protected her and now she's got an opportunity to protect him and to help him through things. And I think that creates a really interesting dynamic.
I was gonna mention that. I was actually gonna mention this earlier, but I decided to save it for after we talked about this. You guys both mentioned about how you guys didn't want to tell people certain things because Tyler was a killer and he killed his mom. When I was playing through it as Tyler, I never got the impression from him that he killed his mom. He always felt more carefree as I was playing through it. So when I got to that point, it just all sort of clicked in, and I was like, it all makes sense now. It really was written so well, and I really want to point this out. The writing is so good because they lay all the groundwork with everything on how every character is written, especially the two twins, and how once you get to that moment, it all makes sense. And there's decisions you make. Like, I made a decision with Alison about on who you defend. Do you defend Eddie or do you defend Tyler? I defended Eddie because I was let me explain why I defended Eddie. Let me explain why I defended Eddie.
Well, you better explain.
I defended Eddie was because he doesn't know better, right? He wasn't there. He didn't understand. He wasn't there. And he's been there for her for 7 years, whatever, right? I was like, okay, there's some validity to Eddie. But at the point afterwards, after you find out that ending, I was like, I actually messed up defending Eddie because she knew the truth all along, and that is just a scummy move, and I actually felt really bad about that decision because that really felt like a backstabbing move after that.
I'm really glad I stuck with Tyler on that one.
Me too!
God, I didn't even consider the possibility of not backing up Tyler on that one.
Chris, I'm sorry, this is your last week on the podcast. This is it. You're done, mate.
I viewed it really as this position about how Eddie became a father figure to her, and he helped her get through everything, and sort of was there for her during that time, so that Eddie did deserve sort of some backing in that situation. But after finding that out, I was like, wow, I really made the worst possible decision in that moment, because Tyler, like, thinking just how Tyler would react, Tyler must have felt so backstabbed. And even when they show you, like, at the end of the game, they show you the decisions and how how the characters were affected, and it was like, it put some distance between you two, and I was like, no, duh, it put some distance between us. It should have ruined the relationship right there, like, because I'm thinking about it, I'm like, no, that wasn't an okay thing to do, that wasn't a good thing to do, even to hint at that wouldn't be a good thing, because she knew the truth, she knew what really happened.
You made the worst decision in the whole game.
I'm gonna be honest, there were a few reasons I was tempted to go back and play through again for a few reasons. One was to, like, go through the diary, which we'll talk about in a little bit later, I think. But another one was to, like, rectify that decision. I feel
like that's a valid decision to replay to change, because obviously you did not have the information the character had, and you would have made a different choice with that info. But yeah, you made such a good point about, like, Tyler being so carefree as he comes into town. He does not act like someone who is...
He's not a murderer.
Guilt-ridden, returning like, oh yes, I did this horrible thing and now I have to face people. He's just like, oh yeah, I've been gone a while. How are you all doing?
It also explains why he was so mad that he didn't get to see his sister for 7 years, right?
Yeah, because he was harmless. He'd done nothing
wrong.
He
didn't deserve it. And when Eddie's like, we didn't trust you, the court decided, and he gets so mad, and I'm like, why is he getting mad? Why is he fist pumping the desk and all this stuff? And then once you see that, and it's like, it all makes sense.
He's
I
furious.
just kept feeling worse.
Good. No, you've literally blown my mind again, though. It is very much like... I literally talking to you guys about this, and this is why I love video games. Like, hearing other people's opinions and perspectives on things just open your mind to so much more. But yeah, literally hearing you talk about the whole court thing. Now, it was a case of screw what the court said. I just did 10 years for you, sort of thing. Like, I wanted to see my sister. Like, you stopped me. Now I'm done with him. If you think I was done with him before, Crash has got Crash. I gotta tell you something. You gotta carry on with that save. Because we need to see where it goes.
I'm
We've got to see where it goes. We've got 3 more episodes.
I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to redo it. But
2 more episodes.
No, absolutely. Yeah. It was... The writing is just so good and so subtle. And I'm curious where with, like, episode 2 and 3, where that writing continues and where this sort of the groundwork they laid sort of goes.
Also, I'm just going to say this up front. I'm really curious how much they're going to lean into the sci-fi stuff, because that ending sure seemed to imply that there is a monster hunter man who is real and physically exists.
So,
which I mean, this wouldn't be a first time for Don't Nod doing magical nonsense stuff. We've got psychic twin telepathy and time travel memory powers.
I was just about to let's bring up the memory powers and sort of the crux of what this game is. There's very much always 2 choices. It seems like there's going to be anyway going forward, right? You do this thing where you, as twins, you can listen to each other's thoughts, and I guess it's thoughts, right? Just talking to each other. It's like a walkie-talkie but in your head type thing, which I thought was really cool actually, because they always talk about twin telepathy and things like that. I thought it was like a little play on that, like, you really are interlinked.
I will say, I streamed this, and I had several sets. I had several like people who are parts of sets of twins in the chat, and they were all like, "Oh my god, not more twin telepathy." Apparently, all people who are twins are like fed up with that.
Yeah,
one.
I can imagine. But the memory stuff. Sorry, say again.
Oh, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed telepathy.
Same. But the memory stuff I thought was really cool actually. With obviously you go through each scenario that you're going through and you start remembering things, and then those scenarios then play out in front of you of what happened. But the thing they kind of put a twist on this is it's 2 different people's perspectives, and you always know you've got that friend who tells the story way different to how you tell the story. Crash. I did kill those 10 guys in Call of Duty, and you're a liar if you say I didn't. Go on.
On that, I really like the fact they made it that both people can actually be wrong in any given memory, because it is how you remembered it, and it is not fact. And I really love that twist on it, the moment you're doing it in the grocery store.
Yeah. My only thing about that is I wish that, like, there was less the 2 getting mad at each other over whose you picked. Because I'm like, look, just acknowledge the fact memory is weird and subjective, and most of the things we remember we don't actually remember. We remember remembering them and fill in the blanks. And I don't like the fact that, like, oh no, I picked this choice and now this person doesn't like me. Just let me pick the one that I find more interesting.
Yeah, I kind of disagree with that only because what the memory entailed, and it was about their mother and I forgot her name, Trissa.
I don't remember the
Yeah.
I forget.
They don't say her name
and,
very often, do they? They literally say her name.
Yeah, and it's so those two people are people that are really close to both these characters, and one's painting one as the villain and the other's painting the other as the villain. So I understand why they might get defensive in certain aspects around it, but I do think that hopefully that decision doesn't have implications down the line for us, because I think that would be where the game faults us, or where the game was at fault.
Because, like, looking at that choice in the supermarket where you have two different memories, there is one clearly better option in terms of, like, getting the information you want out of the woman working in the shop. If you side with, I think it's Tyler's memory, the one where the mum is being really aggressive to the shopkeeper, that gets the shopkeeper to go, oh yes, I'm not the villain in how you remember this, and she opens up so much more about, like, the, okay, look, I did give her pamphlets about conversion therapy, and she, like, yeah, no, she gives you all that. Basically, if you pick the memory that presents, like, the shopkeeper lady as being the villain, she just shuts the fuck down and doesn't tell you anything.
I got the pamphlet and stuff like that, and I did pick her as the villain.
Oh, okay.
She still gives you all that information as well.
Oh, I've seen people pick her, like, her as the villain and not get that information from her.
I got the information as well. She's just more aggressive and defensive about it. Like, I would never, like, collect on your mom's debt and all this stuff.
Yeah, I
like,
got that.
I did give her the pamphlet.
Oh,
and,
I don't think
all this, and, like, I don't really interact with them anymore, but it's like, we just saw the email on your computer, so we know that's not really true.
Yeah.
She's very much more defensive about it, but you still do get the information. I think that information really only relies on if you find the clues about it.
Oh, okay. The mum's name was Mary Ann, by the way. I mean,
yes.
Yeah, so there you go. Honestly, this game is so good. I think it's a really good story that's being told. Where else? I'm trying to think of where to go next before we're almost an hour already, so I don't want to go on too. I don't want to go crazy on it. It is a spoiler cast, so we can keep going. I don't know what time is for everyone else, but what have we missed that are some of your moments that we think we've missed that you want to talk about?
The fact that we see the Mad Hatter, or not the Mad Hatter, the Mad Hunter.
Yeah.
And it sort of when I talked about the book, it really made me want to go back and read the diary and read what logs the mom put into the diary, and I don't know if the game tells you, because I want to know how much of the mom's stories are based on possible reality and just twisted versions of it.
Yeah.
And
because that's obviously
Well, that's a character we should probably talk about a little bit more before we do end this. Is the mum, really? Like, obviously she plays such a critical role through this story. Whether we still don't know, like, the full ins and outs of it. But from what I sort of saw, was someone that was clearly struggling through life in general. Has these twins that are they're kids being kids at the end of the day, and she doesn't deal with that very well, but she does deal with it in her own way. That's something that they even say a little bit of, like, oh, she let us explore our artistic side, and she did do this and she did do that, and I was like, I didn't see the ending coming, actually, but I was very much like, she doesn't sound like someone that should have been killed. Honestly,
she seems like she was trying to be an engaged parent. She was trying to provide opportunities for her children to not just survive but to thrive. She was trying to raise them to be creative, adventurous people, and clearly at some point something went wrong. And whether that is, she was struggling financially. There are implications that she was struggling with some mental health stuff that she wasn't taking great care of, like she was refusing to take medication she was prescribed. And obviously the easy answer would be the Mad Hunter didn't exist, it was her dealing with her own shit.
Yeah.
But the fact that we see the Mad Hunter in a memory that is supposedly from the perspective of Tyler and Alison would suggest that she existed. The hunter existed. And if so, that puts a whole different spin on was this a real threat that existed, that maybe she was afraid to take her mental health medication because she was worried it would cause her to not be on her A game to deal with this threat that was coming, or was that a big source of where the anxiety was coming from? Like, you could maybe switch the order of causes around.
Do you think that maybe we get deeper and the Mad Hunter is like child services or something? And there could be a case of like, I'm not saying it is, obviously, I'm just like, now we're talking, my brain's going everywhere, honestly. It's like, this, because she's constantly like, this is not how it was meant to be, this is not how it was meant to be. She's loading a gun like she wants to protect something. And
my gut instinct is, we've not heard anything about the children's father, or where the children's father is. I assume that it's some kind of manifestation of, this person was a danger to my kids, I got him out of their life, he's come back. Again, that wouldn't explain why is she pointing the gun at Tyler. Like, that's obviously the big mystery, and I'm super fucking curious where that's going. Because, like, how does pointing the gun at Tyler deal with the hunter?
Yeah. Did you guys notice that at the end of the police scene, the Mad Hunter's there?
Yes.
He's just floating there, yeah.
No.
So it's like, yeah, he's there. He's there in the background. After you end that scene, you should like look up a Let's Play or whatever and watch after that
I've got
scene.
my Let's Play. I'll go check it out. Yeah.
Yeah, he is floating there, and my whole thing is like, is the Mad Hunter created because of Alison and Tyler interacting together?
Yeah, is it a result of their twin powers? Because now they're back together and they're using their powers again. Is that what's manifesting the hunter?
Yeah, so it leaves a lot of room for questions and a lot of different routes they can take these answers, which is honestly the sign of like really, really good thought out writing.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of times when games give you these multiple choices, no matter what route you pick, you end up in like one of three endings, and all three endings generally tend to be similar, with the difference being a few characters not making it. And I'm really hoping with this game that you really do get unique endings depending on what you take. Only they feel natural and like it's a progression of the story no matter what route you take.
Yeah. I generally feel like every character in this game does a great job of moving the story forward and making you learn about new experiences, and it generally was such a pleasure to play this game and really experience something from such a different perspective than the way I see the world, and to see what other people are going through. Again, not just the transition for Tyler, just literally twins and small town mentality, and someone I'm from London, so everything's big and we're all at 100 miles an hour. You very much take that town as Utah, as I believe it's Utah if I'm not mistaken. Is it Utah? Maybe I'm thinking
Avengers.
Utah's in Avengers. God damn it!
Yeah, they're
in Alaska. They're in Alaska. God, I'm playing both in between. I'm sorry. In Alaska, it's very much, it feels slow pace. The town's very chilled. You've got the one convenience store. They've got the one place that they all eat the same food from.
Everyone knows everyone.
Everyone knows everyone's business. It's very small towny, right?
It's also very empty. You know, when you're driving through and you're going to the grocery store, no one else is there. It doesn't seem busy. There are people out in the street and out and about, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
this is by far the most I have enjoyed a Microsoft exclusive in a while.
Yeah.
It is the most interesting thing Microsoft has published in a while, I think.
Damn, just talking about Battletoads like that, Crush. It's mad.
Good. Talk about Battletoads like that.
Again, I could talk about this for way longer than I am now, but I feel like this is a good place to wrap it up. I don't even know if we should bother talking about Avengers. Honestly, we can. Have we got time? I feel we keep this as a spoiler cast on its own. Laura, can you do 2 more of these? Can we do each episode?
I can come back and talk about more episodes. Get me back when you want.
Should we do one a week? It's only 3 weeks, right? It's out next week.
Yeah,
get it played and come back. Yeah, it's one a week.
Does it come out?
Every Friday.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 3 consecutive Fridays they're putting the episodes
Let's do that.
out.
I thought the next episode's not coming out for like another month.
No, it's one of my favorite things about
that.
this. They're doing every Friday an episode comes out.
I really like that.
Yeah.
Oh, they cut it up in really good segments, because this took me about, I think, 2 hours and a half to beat, maybe around 3 hours.
It's gonna be free.
And I feel like it was the perfect amount of time for me to sit down, get the big bit of story and then have me process it, and I'll probably go on for the rest of the week just thinking about the ending, thinking about what happened, and my horrible mistake.
Is that perfect amount of time that, like, I will still remember all the details when it's time for the next episode, which is perfect.
Yeah, that's always the problem, right? When you have these type of, again, I think that's something that Don't Know struggled with Life is Strange, especially Life is Strange 2, which is you play one episode, then you forget everything, and you come back, it's like, wait, what did I say to you, and what did I not say to you, and what happened here? This seems like it's perfect, and yeah, okay, we're gonna do literally one a week, and then we'll do a roundup and we can all talk about it. It'd be dope. Okay, cool. Thank you all for watching. Let's plug, and get ourselves out of here. Kresh, we will start with you. What have you got to plug this week, my friend?
Twitch.tv/Crushnick.
Wow, he's back. He's back.
I'm back.
He's back,
one
baby.
day, I'm back.
He's back. Laura, what about yourself? Where can people find you?
Laura K Buzz on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Patreon, that's the one that pays the bills.
Yep.
I Twitch stream Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays at 10 PM UK, 5 PM Eastern, 2 PM Pacific. Every Friday on youtube.com/LauraKBuzz I upload episodes of Accessibility. It's a show where I talk about how can we help more disabled people to play more games, and how can we get better representation of people in games. I'm really proud of that series, go give it a watch. Just Laura K Buzz everywhere.
It's amazing. The dyslexic episode really was important to me. As you know, I am dyslexic, and literally watching it, I was like, yeah, you've nailed it. You've nailed it. So thank you very much for doing that. You can find me over everywhere at MC Fixer, but the big one to push this week was I was on a little show called IGN Podcast Unlocked. You may have heard of it. If you're listening to this, you probably have heard of it. Go give it a watch. I'd love people's feedback. I was the most nervous I've ever been doing anything, and I don't get nervous. I've interviewed Greg Miller twice. He's my idol, and I didn't get nervous with him. But this was one of those moments that I've been working for most of my career. It's one of those top 2 moments ever. Literally, to have that ticked off is a phenomenal feeling. So go check it out. Let me know what you think, how I come across, how I speak, things like that. Anyone who listens to this show and has been with me long enough, you know who I am. But opening yourself up to a new audience is always scary because you don't know how you're going to be perceived. So go be nice in the comments, because I'm sure IGN's comments are not lovely. So just a nice job fix would be amazing, or something like that. And yeah, until next time, I will love you, leave you, and see you all later. Tell me why. What a game. Bye.
Yeah.
Ah, that was fun.
Yeah, that was great. Right, I'll stop recording.